This program is brought to you by IG. Trade over 12,000 shares and ETFs, including major tech giants with extended hours on an award-winning platform. IG, where traders are made.
And our stock of the day is Tamboran Resources. TBN is the ticker code. It's launched a proposed $175.5 million IPO on the NYSE. Price range between 24 and 27 US per share. It's looking to raise capital to fund all of its works up in the NT, that Beetaloo Basin that we hear so much about. It's expected to start production in mid-2026. So yeah, guys, Tamboran Resources, it's my understanding that they just want more liquidity. They feel that American investors sort of get what they're trying to do here in Australia to a larger extent. It appears as if they're going to be able to, get their drills in the ground. Fracking actually is what it is in the Northern Territory. What do you think of Tamboran Resources?
I'm not so sure whether it's going to make a big difference. Another Australian company, Telix Pharmaceuticals.
Telix, pulled the plug on their
has just
IPO.
had to pull their, and there's a reason why Life 360 listed in Australia first. The US market has less and less become accommodative to medium-sized to smaller-sized, medium-sized companies, and that's why some of them are listing in Australia. The fact that some Australian companies are going to the US, I'm not so sure whether it's going to make a big difference, to be honest. There is increasingly money moving into the US markets, also from Australian investors, but I'd be heavily surprised if that goes to anywhere near those small cap and micro cap companies that are listed there too. I would think that the majority of the money goes into the mega techs, if not at least the S&P 500, even the Russell, which is 1,000 or 2,000 companies in it. Even the interest there was not that high in 2024. So personally, I'm not so sure whether that's, yes, from their perspective, I can see it. I mean, if they can get it out, they have more money, more liquidity. That's always good for the business. For investors, though, if it's going to do a lot for the share price, I'm not so sure. No,
but do you believe in the energy transition, LNG? They call it carbon neutral gas coming from the Beetaloo Basin. I mean, fundamentally, do you like the prospects for this company?
Yeah, that's a nice narrative. I'm not so sure whether all the ESG investors would be on board here.
It's a bit of an oxymoron.
That's exactly. I'm having lots of fun with your typical value investor on the platform formerly called as Twitter. They will tell us all that you can't possibly own NextDC, WiseTech or Goodman Group, but they will happily put their money in something that has no revenue, no profits, and a big promise for the decade ahead. So I guess we all have a concept of risk.
Okay, so if you owned it, would you hold it? With this US listing, the news that inspired this.
That's an oxymoron as well. I would never own it because for me it's still an empty box full of promise.
Okay,
and
so we're going to avoid this one.
I like to have more than just a promise.
How about you, Philip?
Sure covers the stock. We have a buy rating on it, so I'll have to reiterate the house view and call it a buy. We think it's undervalued. We like what it's doing in the Beetaloo Basin, so that's the contractual obligation. We like the story. 400 mil market cap, looking to go offshore. Companies do that because they think, or they're frustrated with their current share price and they believe they'll get a proper rating elsewhere. I've seen this so many times before, it rarely works. They are mispriced. If you believe consensus price targets, consensus of 2, it's worth about 38 cents. I think we've got 37, so the other person must have 39. Trading at 19 cents, so it should be twice the valuation. I think part of the issue is they're considering dual listing because they need capital to continue drilling, continue exploring, and when something's come a capital raise, you never at fair value because people wait for the capital raise. So personally, if I were them, I would have stuck to home base. Local investors would probably have supported it. Without being too familiar with this matter, companies often look to offshore for a re-rate and don't get it, and all they do is have the expensive dual listings. So I'll call it a buy because it is cheap and Shaw likes what they're doing, but if they're listening, I would tap the Australian market, not the US market.
It's also, Philip, if I can play devil's advocate here, there are 2 or 3 commodity markets in the world: Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and maybe South Africa. So you would expect that investors in those markets, they are familiar with commodities. Yeah? Then you go to the US. Since when are investors in the US familiar with commodities? Outside of gold and a little bit of oil.
Well, I'd say oil, yeah. All right, we will leave that one there. Thank you guys for the stock of the day. It is a buy from Philip Pepe at Shaw Partners, but Rudi wouldn't be touching this one. Stay with us.
This program was brought to you by IG, Australia's #1 CFD provider. Trade over 17,000 markets with extended hours on key US shares and competitive spreads. All on an award-winning platform. IG, where traders are made.